This is the Passive 25K podcast, a podcast built around the vision of creating wealth through passive income for ourselves and others. The idea of creating income while you sleep seems like a dream come true, but for most professionals, turning this into a reality is a different story. On this show, you will hear real people breaking passive income streams down to the basics, giving you the next steps to start your own passive income journey. If you're new to the show, my name is Kyle Reedstrom from Fargo, North Dakota, where I get to work with my team of agents and investors each day to complete our goal of $25,000 a month in passive income. Now, let's get right into our next conversation. Welcome to the Passive 25K podcast with Kyle Reedstrom. I am excited to talk about our episode 18 topic today, Crowdfund Your Next Rental Property with Levi Brackman. Man, I'm super pumped to talk to you, Levi. Thanks for being on.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, Kyle. Thank you for having me.
Levi, I want to introduce you to our audience a little bit before we get started, so I'm going to read your bio. Levi Brackman is the CEO and founder of Invown.com, a marketplace for real estate finance where owners and sponsors raise financing from anyone, including their non-accredited investors, using Reg CF. Levi has been investing in real estate for 17 years. He's a serial entrepreneur, best-selling author, PhD in quantitative social sciences, and former executive at Fortune 500 companies. Levi holds a master's degree from University College London and 3 rabbinic ordinations. All right, Levi, I got it down. Give our audience, we got our audience a little bit about you, a little background, but I want to talk to you and let you enter in on you being a real estate investor and then transitioning towards the Invown platform, Invown.com.
I'll give you a bit of background. I always said to myself, from what I saw when I bought my first house when I was 27, that was a while ago now. What I saw was that real estate was really emotional. People bought homes and they were really emotional about it. And when I bought my first house in 2006, so I saw the 2008 crash, and I realized that, these are emotional buys. People weren't doing it in a logical way. And I said to myself, I don't need to get involved in an asset class which is so emotionally driven. But what I didn't understand was that was homeowners, an entirely different class than investors. Investors, those who do really well, don't make emotional-based decisions at all. It's all about the numbers. So anyway, I ended up kind of getting into real estate by accident, if you like. Really, I bought some properties and I never sold. I never thought, whenever I bought a house, I kept it. So I ended up buying a few homes and then keeping them, renting them out, and realizing, hey, this kind of can make some money. But how Invown took place was really not about me wanting to go into real estate. It was me finding a problem which I wanted to solve for myself. And that problem was I'd moved all across the country from Colorado to Connecticut in order to for this job, and the company had paid for the move, etc. And I was renting this house which I wanted to buy, and the landlord, he saw how much I had earned because he had an application, you have to show your pay slips, etc. And he decided to jack up the price on me. And I realized I didn't want to overpay necessarily for real estate. So I thought maybe I get someone to invest in the house alongside me so that I could share the risk. And I looked at to see who would do that. And I found that there was a couple companies which were willing to kind of buy the future value of the equity of my house, but for crazy prices. So, there's Unison, there's Point, there's Noah, there's a bunch of these companies. And they've actually, many of them have actually many more have grown since then. And they're all a really bad deal for the homeowner. And I thought if I could create a crowdfunding platform where people could get their peers to invest in their homes, and that would be a good idea. So that's how Invown was born. Meanwhile, since then, I've bought more real estate because I've gotten more and more into real estate. And now basically my income is covered by my real estate investments. So Invown is something which I do as part of my passion. It's really important to me that I help people get into real estate, and I think you and I share very similar passions here because it is such a good investment. And and if you do it right, it's not a risky investment either. And it cash flows. So I'm really, really passionate about helping people get into this asset class, whether it's in a passive way as an LP, in a small amount, starting off with, $2, $3, $4, $500, or buying their first investment property. There's so many education kind of organizations out there to educate you how to do it, but they don't give you all the tools to do it. We can give you all the tools to go from 0 to 100, including all the regulatory requirements, all the how you form a company, how you do your LLC agreement, how you do a subscription agreement, with the technology to go and raise the money. And so, that's where we are.
Levi, I think it's so compelling how you were presented with the problem of, hey, how can we access this? How can we get in? Why is this so complicated to partner up and get access to this?
Yeah.
And then you decided to solve the problem with Invown. I completely agree with you on the real estate aspect, and I hope our audience was just drawn into that moment when you're like, hey, this is such a good investment. People need to see this, and everybody should do it. There's enough room for everybody to do this, Levi. We both agree.
Yeah.
That's the crazy part. And what your platform is doing is allowing that. And I want to touch on, how did you take this from idea to implementation, man?
Well, in the beginning, I decided the first thing I said, I got to start somewhere. So I started putting a pitch deck together and started to understand the problem I was trying to solve. Excuse me. And then, got a domain, found a domain, bought the domain, incorporated a company, and then hired a developer and hired a lawyer. And all of that stuff didn't cost me that much money because I convinced people, to work for me either for deferred payment or partial payment or a little bit of equity, and just started building it out. And, a few years later, we have a whole platform which works. It's just every single day putting one foot in front of the other and being passionate about solving this particular problem.
I love that. Or go ahead, finish up, Levi.
I mean, it's not magic. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. The key components of putting this together, even jumping into your pitch deck, we all can understand, hey, instead of saving up or not having the capital to get invested into real estate, which is the biggest barrier we see, that's the problem we're talking about here.
Yeah.
What are the key components to a site that you're building to give access to this?
Well, there's two key components. One is the regulatory requirements, right? Because what's key and important that people really understand here is that when you are getting people to invest in real estate, what you're doing here is you're selling securities. And it's really important that people understand that. Because if you don't understand it, you could be doing things which are against the law, and you could potentially either get into trouble. Even if you can't get in trouble even if you don't get in trouble with the feds, if you're sued, you could lose a lot of money, right? So it's really important to understand that there are laws around selling securities. And it's worthwhile kind of defining what a security is, because a lot of people don't know. They think it's this esoteric thing. And, with cryptocurrency, some people say, are they securities? Are they not securities? And this big argument going on. It's really, what a security is really quite simple. There's this thing called the Howey Rule. And the Howey Rule defines a security in the following way. It says that if you're investing in a joint enterprise, so in a business, you're investing in a business, and that business, right, you're not working in that business. You're expecting the profit to come about as the result of the efforts of other people. So in real estate, we would call them an LP, a limited partner, right? You're not a general partner, which a general partner is someone who works in the business, buys the property, manages the property, makes sure that there are tenants in it, makes sure there's money coming in. A limited partner is the guy who just gives the money, right? If you are a limited partner, you're expecting that your profits come about as the results of the efforts of others. What you're buying is a security. In the majority of real estate deals, you only have a few people who are actually working in the deal. Everyone else is putting the money in. And therefore, when you are bringing investors in, you're selling securities. Now, if you're selling a security, that security needs to be registered with the SEC. That's the rule, unless you're using an exception to the rule. Now, there are a number of exceptions that you can use. So there are exceptions to the rule if it's only to accredited investors, if it's, if you're not doing any kind of advertising, or if you're selling it through something called a funding portal, and then you can sell it to anybody, and we're a funding portal. So we enable people to be able to sell their securities to anybody.
And they do not have to be an accredited investor, which is the common thing I hear. And so you found this is the loophole that allowed the idea to flourish, was you are a funding portal.
Yeah. It's not really a loophole because this was an intentional part of the act, right?
Correct. Okay.
Which actually
100%.
creates this concept called a funding portal. And the funding portal, it's basically the SEC delegating responsibility to us, right? So the SEC, its goal is to protect investors from fraud, because back in
Correct.
Back in the 1920s, there were a lot of fraud going on. People selling promises of all kinds of things and great riches. So to make sure that the investor understands all the risks, all the disclosures are made, and the investor protections are there, it's delegated to something called a funding portal, and that therefore our obligation is to make sure that what's going on here is actually legit, and to make sure that the investor is fully aware of all the risks associated with what they're buying.
So as an investor, now that I'm using your platform, which is a funding portal, the SEC is not off my back, but I have now granted access to anybody that's any general investor per se.
Yeah.
Speak to this a little bit more, Levi, in the sense of, even though I'm raising funds, there's still a fine line here. I think this can get gray for people on hey, I'm using other people's money. You still have to do what you say you're going to do. Otherwise, you could get into legal battles between each other. But essentially, the regulatory party, being the SEC, is now looking at this with their permission, essentially.
You have to file with the SEC something called a Form C, which we help you put together. It's a similar.
That's a Form C.
Form C. It's very similar to what you would call a private placement memorandum, or PPM, which you would do doing a different type of offering. But it's one you actually file it with the SEC, and then it's on the SEC's website. And then once you file that, then you can ask people to invest money in it. Now, our obligation is, once the money comes in, it goes into an escrow account, which is set up on behalf of investors and the issuer. They're called issuers, people who are issuing securities. So the sponsor or the owner of the real estate is called an issuer. And so there's an escrow account set up for them. That money goes in the escrow account, but we, as Invown, we have the responsibility to decide whether the money can be released or not. And how do we decide that? Well, it's based on, we look at your Form C and what you've told investors that you're going to use it for, and we'll release it for that purpose. We're not going to release it for you to go on vacation. We're not going to release it into your private bank account. If you've told investors you're going to use it to buy property, we will then release it to the escrow account of the attorney who you're using in order to buy that property. So it doesn't go, and this is so. Or if it's in order to be able to do some certain renovations, we will then, release it in a way in which we know that money is going to go to the renovations. So, that's part of our responsibilities. You've told investors this is what you're going to do. We make sure that money is released for the things that the sponsor, the issuer, said that they were going to do it for.
Okay, so Levi, I like to use examples, breaking this down. Let's say that I'm an investor, right? I have an opportunity. Let's say I've raised $100,000 through the Invown platform, and your responsibility, you're saying, is to guide those funds. Essentially, your responsibility is to move those funds towards an escrower, which could be a title company in my area, correct?
So thank you for asking for the clarification, because what I was talking about here were actually two escrow accounts.
Okay.
There's the first escrow account, which is the one which is created when you start your offering, right?
So that's on your side, essentially. That's your escrow. Yep. Okay.
Exactly. And then that stays in escrow on behalf of you, the issuer. Let's say it's you, the issuer, and the investors who've invested in it, right? And then our job is to make sure that we guide those funds from that escrow account to where you said you were going to use it for. So
gotcha.
If that was to purchase a property, that would go to the escrow account, your local escrow account, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. And then I go close, and now I'm performing in the investment.
Exactly.
So, you touch on that. Okay, so I'm following this well. We raise the funds. You guys are holding the funds. Obviously, those don't come to me until I'm going to close on a property, which makes complete sense.
Yeah.
And then you're going to send those to the title company. We're going to close, and now I'm in my general partner role of making this investment turn, which is it's simple, and it's good to get the explanation behind it. You had said the one key component is the regulatory, which I think is the scary part of this. So thank you for addressing that. What are the other key components of the site and its function?
Well, there's a technology, right? And the technology is, allowing you to kind of put your deal up there, allowing for the investment to take place, allowing for the money to kind of be transferred. But including all of that, is also a lot of disclosures which need to happen, which need to be built into the platform. And then the ability to refund the money and the ability to, to be able to track where your money is. All these kind of things are part of the platform. People have to be able to ask questions and answer questions on the platform. So you need to be able to ask the sponsor a question. All these things have to be built into the platform. Before we were able to get membership with FINRA, which is a regulatory agency or organization, which you have to get that membership if you want to be able to operate as a funding portal, as we are. Before we got that, we had to go walk through with them to show that our site complied with all the rules and that, all the different notices which need to be sent out at the different times would be sent out. And, it was a pretty in-depth kind of walkthrough that we had to do with them before they would allow us to kind of go live.
And I think that this is so important to hear the heavy lifting that you had to do, even if you're simplifying like, hey, it's step by step, to hear the heavy lifting you did. Because when I see fundraising in the real estate space, I either see it like backwoods Wild West style, where you just raise some money from your neighbor and your brother and your dad, and you're going about this thing, or I see it on a high level corporate side where there's the large executive business plans and all those documents, and there's just not a place for the investor that has some expertise, some savvy, some vision, and they have opportunities, and that's I think such a important place and your target market essentially. I mean, you could serve any of them, but you're giving access to that market.
We have $100 million deal coming up soon, right?
Wow.
So in other words, but where my passion lies really is to help those people who really would like to get into real estate. They have the passion, they have the understanding, but they need the ability to actually raise the money. And you don't really need much of your own money if you go in this route. You can go. You just need friends who believe in you, and a community which believes in you. And then maybe you've built a Facebook page, or you've built a community on Facebook or TikTok following who believes in you. And then you go to them and say, I have this deal, and go to this link and go to this page and invest in it. And a lot of people will invest in you. If you've built a little bit of a following, you'll be able to turn that following into investors in your deals. And that's my goal. And as a matter of fact, I'm so passionate about it that I will, if you're a first-time investor, right, and you want to, what I mean investor, you're a first-time purchaser of a rental property or some kind of investment property, we will actually help you from the beginning. We'll help you every step of the way, including from consultations about how do I find my property. We'll share our expertise with you. And although I know this is going to take a lot of my time, and I'm putting it out there for the first time ever on your podcast, that we are willing to actually go and take you where you are, if you have the passion for it, and we will cut off fees for you. For your first investment property to buy, if you want to go out and this is your first investment property, we will cut off fees substantially. We'll make very little money off you, and help you do it, because it's getting into real estate is so powerful that I would like to enable as many people to do it as possible.
Man, and that is a powerful offer that you just shared with us, man. I think people should perk their ears to that. I know from personal experience working with Levi and his team, we've explored this Invown.com website. It's been fun to learn more, and we're actually in the process of creating an offering. You guys, That offer that Levi just talked about is one you do not want to pass up. Definitely reach out to his team, reach out to Levi after this podcast. Thank you for saying that, man. And it's all driven behind your passion to fill this gap and help people get from here, from the zero to just starting down that path, man. It's truly a generational wealth creation decision. And that's what you're talking about with the power of it. And you're helping people get to that point.
Someone
Levi.
helped me.
I love it.
I didn't come from money. I bought my first property because someone basically said to me, I'm going to lend you $30,000 for 5 years without any interest so you can buy your first property.
Wow.
And that guy helped me and he changed my life. Look, that's the reality of it. So not that I can't lend people $30,000, but I can help them get into it, raise the money, and move on. So, I want to help as many people as possible.
Man, I love that. And that's the stuff we love the most is when it's driven behind the heart of it. It all has to make sense, of course, but it's driven behind the heart. Levi, a little bit more on your site. You've done the regulatory lifting. You've got the tech. It allows a person like me to put this out on my social media, to put this out in email form with a link, and you can see my offering. It's amazing. It's all there for me. You can also, on your platform, you can be an investor. You can present an opportunity, or you can be an investor. Talk about how you have both of those avenues.
Well, it's really a marketplace, right? It's two-sided. You have a guy like you go out there, you find deals, and then you have people who they don't necessarily want to find deals themselves. The fact is, it's hard work to go out there and find a deal. I just bought a deal. I'm going to do some TikToks on this because I just bought a deal and I bought it sight unseen. It was a really good price. And we have someone on the second. I haven't yet been into the second floor unit because, I won't get into the details, but it's hard. It turns out that it's hard work, right? And, I found out just this morning that a little bit of the, of the foundation, the beam of the foundation is a little bit off the foundation wall. It's like, and I didn't know that because I bought it really cheap. It was a really good price, right? It was 2 families, 3 bedrooms in each one. Amazing price. I got it for like, $135,000, which is incredibly cheap for New Haven.
Nice. Yes.
But, it's going to be quite a bit of work to get this to where it needs to get to. A lot of people don't have the time or don't want to do that hard work, but they still want to invest in real estate. Like my brother-in-laws, for example. We went on vacation together and, I was telling them what I was doing and they're like, how can I get in a deal with you? They're like, I have $25,000 sitting around. Can I give it to you? I'm like, they don't own real estate. They haven't had the opportunity yet to own real estate. They're younger, etc. But they know real estate's a good investment. Please, would you take my $25,000? And I was like, yeah, I'll take your $25,000. Now we're partners in deals, right? But the point is that, and usually I don't take investors because that's not what I do. I just buy a little bit on the side for myself. It's like my gig economy job for me to be able to do Invown and help people get into real estate.
Yes.
But a lot of people don't want to actually buy the real estate, but they still want to get into it. Like my brother-in-laws, those people can invest in like your deals on the site.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's an important designation for you to say the site is really a marketplace. I love that. You can come there. You can look at the returns that you could achieve. We're the Passive 25K podcast. We're all about having opportunities for passive income. If someone wants the most fully passive version of an investment, you have deals that are coming to your site. You just talked about a $100 million deal where they're going to be advertising a return for you to put some of your dollars, minimum investments all the way down to, correct me if I'm wrong, Levi, $500. You could do a minimum on some of these. Man, it's such a great opportunity on both ends. We've talked a lot about the fundraising or the issuer part, but there's also such a cool opportunity for investors to come in.
Yeah.
I know my team and I have even talked, if we put a deal out there and we are able to, use the platform in that way to be a general partner, why wouldn't we just allocate some money to invest in the other deals on the platform? I mean, it's such a cool thing. There's been other sites that have shown this concept before, but I think where your site is right now, it's not so generalized. It's not so, the returns aren't put into a bucket, if you will. Each offering has different opportunities and returns.
It's deal by deal, right?
Yes.
That's what the wealthy have been doing for forever. They've been finding guys who they can invest alongside with. but it's been closed to people who are not accredited. I'm so excited about the fact that we've got a couple deals coming soon. One, the $100 million deal. This is literally a institutional grade deal, right? This is the kind of deal which private equity gets into, very wealthy family offices get into, people who've got $20 million in there, to invest or more. And for the first time, this, I can tell you it is QC Capital. They're going to list with us, and it's a really serious multifamily deal. And I'm really excited that through our platform, for the first time, this is going to be offered deal by deal to the general public. And
wow,
and there are other deals like that coming up. So that's also really exciting, that you could be an LP alongside all the wealthy people in this country, the institutions in this country. I'm really excited about that as well.
That's so cool, man. Double-edged sword. Hey, Levi, we're going to take a little break, and we are going to come back, and I want to actually walk through step-by-step your platform, how you would interact with it, and what you have to fill out in order to get a deal uploaded, just to kind of give people a feel for it. I think that'll be really valuable. We'll be right back. Hey, wanted to take a quick break from this week's episode. Wondering if you ever ask yourself, how do I get started in this stuff? Or if I'm already doing it, what are some next steps, or people that are doing the same thing that I want to do, people on this passive income journey? Well, we were getting that question, and we created a community of passive income investors called Passive Income University. This is a place where you can watch videos, things that we've done, where we put tools and information, where we've built a community of people that can communicate, ask questions, and grow together to start their passive income journey. And eventually we complete our passive income journey together. If you're interested in more info on Passive Income University, check us out at p25kg.com. Okay, we are back on the Passive 25K podcast with Kyle Reedstrom, talking episode 18, crowdfunding your first rental property, with Levi Brackman, owner and founder of Invown.com. Levi, we got into some really great stuff in the first half. The coolest part that your site, your platform solves is the biggest problem we see all the time, which is we have many people come to us. They want to invest in real estate, but there's the classic problem of, well, the bank said I have to have 20% down, or the bank said I have to have 25% cash up front, right? It's a cash problem. I always say we find deals all the time. There's just a cash problem. Your site is in the process or currently solving that, and I want to take people step by step what it would look like for them to get an idea, or not an idea, an opportunity for real estate investment uploaded into your site. So walk us through what this looks like when we come to your site. What do we do?
So actually getting something up there is really simple. You can do it in a couple of hours, but that doesn't mean it's going to be live. So you can list a property in what we call coming soon, or test the waters, and get it up there like within a couple of hours. So what you go to Invown.com, go to seek financing, and then it'll take you through a process where you put in all the information about your deal up there. And literally, you send it in to us. And as long as we think it looks good, it can go live on the site, and it'll be what we call a coming soon listing. People will be able to then reserve investments in that deal. Now, they won't be able to send any money, but they can state their intention that they're going to invest in it. That would be step one. Now, if you want to do it that way, you could go. I was talking with a guy today, and he wants to go directly live. He doesn't want to have a coming soon offering. He wants to go directly live. That would then involve a number of other steps. And those steps include, you have to form an LLC, and we help you with that. You have to create an LLC agreement. We'll help you with that. You have to create a subscription agreement. We'll help you with that. You have to get a EIN number. We'll help you with that as well. All these things are pretty straightforward. Mm-hmm. And then you also have to then create what's called an Edgar account with the SEC. That's also pretty straightforward, but it involves one particular twitch, is that you need to get this document. It's called a Form ID. You need to get it notarized. All right. Once you've got that notarized, upload it with the SEC, you get your numbers to create your Edgar account. You create your Edgar account. We work with you on this thing called a Form C. And as long as you got the Form C up there, you've created your page on our platform. Upload the Form C onto the SEC website. Then we create your escrow account that we were talking about before. And once you got the escrow account, we connect that to your offering, and we press a button, it goes live, and boom, people can invest in your platform. Now, all of that, you think, it's a number of steps. And if you come work with us, we'll simplify it for you, and we'll walk you through and hold your hands through every single step of the way. But it does take probably a couple weeks, and you
Gotcha.
have to be engaged with the process. In other words, we won't do it for you. You have to be engaged with that process. It's not our offering, it's your offering. We're going to help you every step of the way. The other thing which we would do for the people who are looking for their first deal is we'll actually mentor you and help you finding that deal, the numbers, etc., all that stuff as well. That's the brand new offering I was talking about earlier, right? And if it's
Gotcha.
your first offering, we'll also give you, we'll incentivize you to kind of to really kind of find that offering. It won't. We'll ensure that it doesn't cost you a lot of money to do that. So those are the steps. I mean, it's not. I don't know if does that sound like a lot?
It was good to see how it all is going to work. I like that people know the steps. And I think there was an important designation you said there. There's two buckets here. There's really the testing the waters aspect of this, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, people that don't have a deal necessarily yet, but they have maybe an example of one. Because that makes sense. That makes sense that somebody would maybe want to see if they can raise the money and then be able to find a deal. It's not always common in a hot real estate market that you would be able to go and snag a deal, and then what happens if you don't raise the funds, So that's the first stage, is be testing the waters, which is people can reserve kind of a concept investment. Fair?
They could, although it could be a concept investment if they would like, but they're going to have to go out there to their friends and say, hey, reserve some money into it. If it's only a concept, it might be less likely that people will be willing to kind of reserve money into it.
That's fair. What's more common for your testing the waters designation, like where people they're just reserving a spot in the investment, not necessarily putting the funds towards?
So it's usually people already have a deal, which they're testing the waters on. But
gotcha.
It doesn't have to be. There's actually one which is there now, and she has some she has candidate properties which she's looking at, and so she has options on 2 or 3 different properties, and so and it's much more of a concept, and the money will be used to buy that land, but what she's selling is a concept. You can see it up there. It's a resort and a community it's actually Black cultural resort and community which she's trying to build in Texas, and that's the concept she's selling. But the money will still be used to buy the land, but she wants to figure out how much she can raise before she knows which land she's going to buy. So if it's a concept, and you're selling your concept to a community and to your investors, then that could work a lot better if you don't actually have the deal yet. But if if it's a deal, people generally in real estate, people can look at the deal. What is the deal?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. And that makes sense. And that's where we were we had looked at the Invown site, the platform, and we were saying, hey, we have an example deal that's doing really well. What if we wanted to duplicate this style of investment? And that's where you and I had the conversation on, hey, maybe test the waters on what the funding could look like. And if it works well, if people understand it. And again, there's some presentation involved with that, which kind of going through the steps of your platform. Then you go into this second bucket, which is, hey, we've got the deal, we've got the address, we've got the statistics. Now we're going into starting our LLC, our operating agreement, and so on, like you mentioned.
Yeah. And I just want to point out that one of the things which stops a lot of people doing this is because generally, if you want to do all of this, you have to go to an SEC attorney, and they're going to charge you between $15,000 and $20,000 to put these documents together.
Yeah.
We're doing is we're going to just offer it as part of the deal, right? You do not actually have to go to an attorney at all in order to be able to do this on our platform.
That's huge. Again, lowering the bar of access for people, which is, again, your goal, your heart behind this. Yeah. What are the key components for people that have never raised money? What do people want to see? Because a lot of people do this as a hobby. Some people do this their own way. There's maybe not a bunch of statistics involved up front, but there's some certain things you want to show somebody that's going to invest in a deal. What are some of those components for the audience to know?
I think the most important thing investors want to know is that you're trustworthy. You're going to do what you say you're going to do. That is the most important. That's why your first deal is not going to be going out there to strangers. It's going to be to people who are your followers on TikTok, Instagram, people who know you, people who your reputation is going to be the most important thing for your first deal. People aren't going to throw money to you if you've done no real estate before and this is your first deal unless they trust you, right? So
Yeah.
this isn't.
It's
I
going to
don't
come
want
from
anyone
your
to think.
sphere.
Yeah, I don't want anyone to think this is free money, right?
That's a good way to put that. Yeah.
Yeah, if you've got a bad background and you're thinking this is a way in which you can, we'll weed you out, and just don't bother even to show up with us, because we're looking for people who sincerely want to get into this, want to make a return for their investors and make money for themselves and long-term passive income, not or even active income through real estate, and help others get passive income. We're not, this isn't for people who kind of think this is a quick way to
a bunch of random people are going to give me money. No, this is really an advertising platform for your own people to start and can grow from there. I like that clarification. Yeah. What about on the terms of, like, you've got to show a return. You've got to, talk through some of these, like, you've got to show what the equity split is. How are people, or how is that laid out?
Well, those are things that we'll have conversations with as you go through your offering, right? And we'll say, what do the numbers look like? What does it make sense to offer equity to investors? Returns to the investors. So you want to do a preferred return? Do you just want to do a split of profits? Those are conversations that we can actually walk you through and have conversations about to decide how you're going to structure your deal to investors. But I think, a lot of people, when they're going to invest in your deal, they're going to invest in your deal not just for the numbers, but because they want to help you succeed, and they also, trust you. Is key.
Yes. Going back to reputation, you're right about that. And then it can grow from there, right? For anybody that's never done this, it's not like, oh, I can't do it because I've never done it. The point of it is, Levi and his team are going to walk you through how to showcase this. And this initial investment is going to be one you're texting the link to, you're messaging your Facebook platform on, you're emailing people that you've talked to about this before, that you've had coffee with, you've been talking to at a holiday party, people that are saying, yeah, I've always been. Now you're the boots on the ground making it happen. And like you said, how you want to showcase it, I've seen it done in a certain preferred return. I've seen it done with different equity splits. Every deal is different, right? Are those some of the key components that people when we're talking preferred return, what are you usually seeing on your site for some of these deals that have come through? Are you seeing like a range of preferred return, or is it too unique to generalize?
It's a range, but the thing is, preferred return for a lot of people, right? It's a confusing concept. What does that mean? You have to start explaining it. So I think if this is your first deal, don't go with preferred returns. Just go with the fact that go with the basic numbers and say, we're going to give you a, pro rata, or share of the profit. If you've bought 5% in this deal, you'll get 5% of the cash flow after you've taken all the expenses, obviously, of the property. And then when it sells, if there's a profit, you'll get this percentage of the profit. So we'll make it, I think, for your first deal, don't get fancy, just make it really simple, really straightforward. This is what you're going to get from the investors. And I think that's the best way to do it, because or else you're going to confuse yourself with all these numbers.
That's a good point. I like that simplicity. Just get into it in an equity split standpoint. Now, that brings up a question for me, though, Levi. With fundraising and with general partner versus limited partner, which you're talking LP, GP.
Yeah.
What is a fair equity split? Because I've seen it where if you're not putting any money into this, let's just say you're a general partner and you raise the funds through investors.
Yeah.
You're the one that has access to this. You're the one that's going to make the gears turn on this investment. What would you say you're seeing for someone doing their first handful of deals like this that they're taking for equity for being the GP?
It's typically a 80-20 split.
Okay.
80% goes to investors and 20% to the
GP.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen 70-30. I've seen typical 80-20. I've seen even up to 50-50. It kind of depends on the value you're providing to the group, of course. But I think it's important for people to know, because the cool part about this, for people getting started in real estate, say you have this network, say you come to Invown and you present a deal with Levi and his team, you could raise 100% of the funds and have 20% of the ownership if you are willing to take the active work and active role to make the investment happen. And that is an amazing entrance into this real estate investing world.
Yep.
Yes, down the road as you leverage this investment and get capital, you're going to have 100% ownership in other investments. But think about this being a part of your toolkit from the beginning. I think of that when I started investing, if this was an opportunity, just the ability to scale your real estate investing is such a cool thing, Levi.
Yep. And there are a lot of young people who have big followings on social media, and they have no way in which to harness that following into deals they want to do, whether it's fix and flips or anything else. And this gives them an opportunity to do it in a really kind of simple, straightforward way.
Yes. Some real quick like tactical aspects. You can create an offering that is all the way down to a minimum investment of $500. Is that correct?
You could do $100 if you want.
You could do all the way down to okay.
You could do 50. It's up to you. You're the person who's making the offering. You decide what you want to do as a minimum. But you'll just end up with more investors potentially to manage. But
is there a cap on the number of investors you can have in a group? Let's say you were trying to raise $50,000 and it was a $50 minimum investment. You could have, what's the math on that? 1,000 investors,
however many gets up to 50,000.
Okay, so there's no legal regulation in terms of the number of investors.
No,
because mainly that's because you're filing with the SEC and they're aware of all
this. That's what Reg CF is. So I think you're thinking of a 506B where there's a maximum of 35, and you have to have an existing relationship with every single one of them. With a Reg CF, because you are being vetted through a funding portal, right, and there's proper background checks on you, etc. So there's less of a risk to investors. Therefore, it can be to anybody. You can market it, and there's unlimited amount of investors you can have. Man, I love it, man. That's such a cool thing that this is giving access with terms that I've never even heard, like this Reg CF thing, these different things that, again, would be the blockade for me getting access to raising funds. You guys are taking that on. What is your vision other than, helping people get access? Invown as a website, as a company, speak to your vision with it, and then speak to what, I know you said your own portfolio is kind of growing bit by bit, but I would love to hear more about your passive income journey and then your vision for Invown. So which one do you want me to start with?
Go with your vision for your own portfolio so far.
So, I've actually grown. My portfolio is not massive, right? It's I'll tell you, I have 16 units. 2 of them are single family homes, which are worth quite a bit. So, but the rest are, 1 bedroom up to 3 bedroom apartments, here in Connecticut. So in total, I think I said I have 16 units. And I've grown to 16 quite quickly. Right now I'm stabilizing, making sure everything works properly. My goal is to continue to grow that. I'll probably end up with, I don't know, 500-600 units or something like that eventually. But I don't really have like a vision with real estate, except that I'm addicted to buying real estate. It's just this amazing thing, like I love buying real estate. And one of the reasons is because it buys my time, right? Even though I'm an active investor, but I don't need to. I was sitting with my kids the other day. I was showing them like money's just coming in. Like, people are living there. Of course, I have to make sure that it works, and I care for my tenants. I care for my tenants. They're my customers. I care that they're happy. And for the most part, they are. But the money just keeps coming in, and I can then focus on doing things good for the world, like Invown. So, people, you should be able to buy your time in some way, right? And you're offering a service to people. You're offering them housing. So if you have that ability, you have that passion, and you have, the know-how to actually buy real estate and offer a good quality product to people to live in, then I think you should do that. And then you should be able to then spend your time doing the other things which are positive for the world. So, my vision is to be able to continue doing that. So I never considered myself a real estate guy. I still don't really. I consider myself to be a guy who does real estate rather than a real estate guy. There's a difference, but I'll continue buying real estate, and my portfolio will continue to grow. As far as Invown is concerned, like the goal is for it to become a one-stop shop for all your capital needs for real estate. So what we've also built into the platform is your ability to get debt and your ability to get other sources of equity. So let's say you've got the $100 million deal. We can help you with getting the debt on that. You need the $80 million of debt, $70 million of debt. We can help you with that. And we've also got other private equity people on the platform. We've got other family offices and other equity placement people who could place equity in that deal. Now, if you're a much smaller deal, let's say a $250,000 deal, and you need to get $160,000 worth of debt, we can help you with that too. So the goal is that you come to Invown for the crowdfunding, but you stay also for all the other pieces of the capital stack. So that's what it's called, the capital stack that you need in order to be able to close that deal. So that's the goal. The goal is to kind of be your one-stop shop for your entire capital needs. And then on top of that, what I just mentioned today in this podcast is I want to also help people get into real estate. So we should really be the platform which takes you all the way through, from I want to buy real estate as an active investor to closing that deal with your investors. And on the other hand, the people who want to passively invest should be able to come here. This is the place they come to passively invest in real estate. And they can shop for the deal you like best, shop for the sponsor you like best, and invest on the spot.
Wow. And when did you start Invown, Levi? When did you start it? When did you kind of launch it? What's the?
Well, I incorporated in February 2020, just before COVID hit, just before the lockdowns. And I quit my corporate job and I went full time in September 2020, and it took us, well over a year for us to build it out and then get FINRA. So we got a FINRA membership in March of this year. So, and then we launched. And
so,
go ahead.
And that's kind of why I wanted you to speak to that, is how fresh this is, how fresh this vision is. You guys are on the scene. I think it's such a cool thing. I can see nothing but growth ahead of you guys, especially because of the heart of why you're doing it. Levi, I just appreciate what you're doing, man. I appreciate it's been fun getting in relationship with you. How can more people find you, Levi Brackman, as a person? And then how can people follow what Invown's up to, just to continue, other than maybe going on the site and checking it out?
Sign up on Invown and you'll get information about new deals, etc., which are coming up. So you can go and sign up and create an account, and you'll hear from us. So that's the other way. But, you can always email me, levi@invown.com. I'm very responsive. I love helping people. If you reach out to me and ask for me to help you figure this stuff out, we'll get on a Zoom. I ask you to allow me to record it so other people can then afterwards also benefit from it. But we can get on a Zoom and have a conversation, talk through a deal that you want, talk through how you want to do it. I'm here available. And I know guys on my team as well. Chris DeFala, who's also a real estate guy who's on my team, he's also just as happy to jump on a Zoom, walk through some numbers with you, some scenarios, some markets, kick around some ideas, whatever you want, reach out to us. We're more than happy to make time. Get on my calendar.com/Invown as well. Just grab some time on my calendar.com/Invown. And, my calendar is almost always up to date. If the time is available, grab it. And I'm more than happy to kind of spend half an hour.
What a great offering. I'm glad you came back to that, Levi. Thank you for being on, man. I'm excited to continue to track what you're doing, stay in relationship with you. And thanks for being on the podcast, man. It's been a joy.
Your pleasure. Thank you.
This has been the Passive 25K podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future conversations. Also, tell us what you thought by leaving a comment below on today's topic. If something really hit with you, don't be afraid to share this with someone else that's interested in passive income. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll catch you next time for another episode of the Passive 25K podcast.